Look at that. The title of this video is not clickbait. This is actually happening. They've put number plates on an Aston Martin Vulcan and invited me to drive it on the Gumball Rally. It's utterly bonkers, utterly bonkers. Let's check it out. So welcome to the Stowe circuit at Silverstone. It's absolutely Baltic, as it normally is. This has recently been commandeered by Aston Martin. So think of this now as their sort of private playground, really. This is where they develop and shake down new cars which are yet to be launched. So inside that building there's some really secret stuff that we'll be able to share with you one day. But today is all about this utterly ludicrous road car. I can't believe those words are even coming out of my mouth. This is an Aston Martin Vulcan. They only made 24 of these cars. It's a naturally aspirated V12 that was developed by Cosworth, and it is one of the greatest sounding V12s that I or you will have ever heard. I shall share that with you shortly. The unique thing about this one is not only is it rare because they only made 24 of them, but this is one of one in terms of it being the only road legal version. So let's run through the features that qualify this as a road legal car. Well, the obvious thing is that this was originally developed to run slicks. Now, Michelin are the tyre development partner for the Vulcan, and off the back of that they're also now the tyre partner for the Valkyrie, and they have developed these Pilot Sport Cup 2s for it, which we shall be running on the road. Now, in order to accommodate these, and also just general road driving, the ride height of the car has also had to be heightened as well. You wouldn't guess it by looking at it. I mean, we're going to be travelling across Europe with this car. It'll ultimately end up doing 3,000 miles. No doubt we're going to encounter some speed bumps. It doesn't have a nose lift on it, so I don't know what'll happen, but that's part of the adventure. That's part of putting yourself outside of your comfort zone and pushing the road-going boundaries of a car. This is certainly up there with one of those things. So heightened ride height, road tyres, Pilot Sport Cup 2s. We're conveniently next to the side exit exhausts. Now, the sound of this has not been adjusted. It's not been made quieter. How dare they? How dare they run race cars around this race circuit? I don't know what it is, but it sounds cool. You'll just have to put up with it because we're at a race circuit. Anyway, back down again. Yeah, side exit exhausts. This is awesome because your head is there. And this isn't glass. This is a perspex type substance. So the sound of it will be a bit like that, actually, a little bit like that on the road. It'll be fun when we're going past pedestrians. If you have cold ankles, come and see me, because I'll keep you toasty. Anyway, let's move around to the front, and arguably the defining characteristic of what makes this a road car. So, if you're familiar with the front of the Vulcan, you'll know it doesn't look like that. Namely, because of these. This has proper headlights now, obviously has to with being a road car, not only from legal points of view, but we will be driving this in the dark, so very important. Once again, ride height heightened at the front. The front splitter of a Vulcan is huge. It's actually like a shelf. It normally comes out to about here. That's had to be redeveloped, redesigned, cut back, so that if we do inevitably encounter speed bumps, we might have just an ounce of hope of clearing it, so that's convenient. Also air intake. Now, no doubt we'll be stuck in traffic at some point. The car is designed to be constantly moving at 10/10, hence swallowing a bucket load of air. We are going to be driving this on the road, motorways, cities, towns, Alps, all sorts of conditions where it might not always be conducive to be sucking in the environment as much as it was designed to. So, the radiator has been revised to sort of always be on and always flowing extra air through the engine to give it a chance to breathe and hopefully maintain its cool. Let's just keep rolling, because it is what it is. It turns out there's a load of classic F1 cars racing today. Normally I'd complain, but it sounds so glorious, I thought I'd just let you enjoy it as well. Good Lord, that's loud! So come join me down here. Now, I'm back to the wheels and tyres because we have to talk about the steering lock and steering angle. With it predominantly being a race car first, the steering rack was normally about that and that, and that's as far as it went. So lock stops have been taken off, steering rack has been adjusted, we now have full steering motion. That's also another reason why the height of the car had to be raised, so that with full lock it didn't scrub the arches. So we actually have a chance of getting around some corners, which is always handy on a rally. And then one of the most iconic standout features of the Vulcan is, of course, the massive wing, which actually looks like it's come from a Vulcan. It's so big. Look at that. Absolutely huge. Now, for road application, Aston have reduced the pitch, which in turn relieves downforce. Just for road application, we just don't need that much downforce, less drag. It's not the most fuel efficient car in the world, so anything we can do to reduce drag is a good thing on a 3,000-mile journey. Let's just acknowledge one other hyper cool feature of this hypercar is the wrap. Now, the owner of the car scanned the Avro Vulcan Bomber, took the livery and put it on this car. So this is an actual Vulcan Bomber livery on the Vulcan. Okay, it's cold and it's loud. The sexy features are on the inside, so let's hop in and show you just the stunning environment of which I'll be driving in during the rally. Okay, as far as utterly ridiculous moments go, the mere concept of what's about to unfold is truly blowing my mind. I'm not sure if you watched my video a couple of episodes ago. I did say towards the end of it that I'm going to reserve the term next level for truly next level moments, because it's becoming somewhat of a throwaway term on my channel these days. But I think this is... It would be an understatement, in fact, to call this next level. It is definitely a suitable moment of which to apply that terminology. Anyway, so let's run you through the interior features as to what qualifies this as a road-going hypercar that once was only a track-only car. So, steering wheel. If I show you some of the buttons of what they were, this, as the pit would suggest on here, is the pit lane limiter, and this here is to talk back to the pits on the radio, hence that little radio symbol on there. Now, the difference in this car, because it's now a road car, is that this is in fact the horn, and this is in fact a washer for the wipers, because of course we will be crossing continents, and no doubt all of this will be splattered with the wildlife of Europe, which will be fun until you can't see. So I have integrated a washer bottle. Now on the back of the wheel, in fact I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of take this off, because this is of course a removable wheel. On the back of the wheel here you'll see two little buttons at the very top of these stalks. These are the indicators. They don't auto turn off once your lock has been corrected back to straight, so you have to remember to toggle them on and off manually. And then of course gear shifts are still the same. Cool thing about this, which is very hard to convey on camera, is just how unbelievably tactile and sexy these feel. Maybe that sound is kind of getting it through, but it is truly rifle bolt feel. The fun thing is that even though this is, I guess you would class it as an automatic gearbox, it will never change down for you, so you have to make sure that you shift your way down through the gears. What an amazing feel that has. We have traction control and the ABS settings. Ultimately, when this is on track, you can calibrate these depending on how much fun and how big your cojones are feeling as to how much of these you dial on or off. On the road, we're probably going to leave them as they are, because let's face it, this is going to be fun enough as it is. Instrument cluster up front. This is really pretty much unchanged in terms of how it was for the road car, but plenty of information on there which I shall share with you shortly. Fan speed down here, pretty obvious stuff. But what's interesting about this car is that even though it's incredibly complex in its construction, in its interaction and switchgear, it's pretty simple. Fans just 0, 1, 2. In fact, I'm going to remove the wheel again so you can see what are my fan holes. So right there, they are the vents for the fan, which sits directly behind the wheel here. So that'll be keeping me nice and cool. Passenger side, sadly for him, he only has this little vent here. I'm going to be driving through Europe in the middle of summer, so in here it's going to be pretty hot. Anyway, let's just put the wheel back on again. You don't need to pull back the clip on this, it just goes back on. Everything is so beautifully crafted. Unlike a lot of race cars, which after some use they generally feel a bit scuffed and battered, the unique proposition of this car is that it retains road-going hypercar levels of build quality, but together with the use and performance of a track car. Look at this carbon. That is the door pull to close the door, and that is the door handle to open it. And it's just a stunning piece of leather, which is also lined on the inside with Alcantara with this contrast red trim. It really is a stunning thing. And then you've got the juxtaposition of the true race car roll cage, and it is a full-on cage that's built all the way through the car here, and it goes up on across the roof. So we're nice and safe in here. And as you can see, there's still the telemetry and track pack set up in here. You have a driver facing camera. This is for the track timing and lap views, and then just behind here there is also a camera integrated into this carbon housing here, so lots to record. Clutch, now this still retains the standard racing clutch. In fact, I'm going to take the wheel off again so you can see a bit easier. So the application is you only need to use the clutch when you're starting the car. Once it's going, then you only need to use the gears up and down and it's good to go. But just as any self-respecting racing clutch would be, it is very much like a light switch in that the biting point is on or off. So the trick is you don't apply any throttle when you're starting. It is literally you just find the biting point, let it go, and then get on gas. And then after that, your foot's good to stay here, or if you're a left foot braker, maybe here. Now, speaking of which, the master cylinder on this brake pedal is so stiff. So for the road, it'll be interesting because it still maintains that true race car feel because, well, it is a true race car. It's unbelievably heavy brake cylinder. So we'll see how my left leg copes with that one. And then this is where things get really quite unique and interesting because you've got 3 power modes. And this again is dialed up depending on how much grip you've got or how confident you're feeling. So power 1, 2 and 3. In 1 you have around about 500 horsepower. 2 you're up in the high 6s, I think, 600 horsepower, and 3 you're over 800 horsepower. So this is very much dependent on the kind of roads we're on and the kind of grip levels we've got. The exhaust system is exactly the same as it is on the track-only version, which is unbelievably good. It just sounds outstanding. It's so loud that we're also going to have to be running an intercom system, which thankfully we have right here. So this is the system so myself and the passenger can talk to each other. And then next to the power, we have the ignition stages. Now, for the road car, there has been some upgrades in that the heat management of this car is really important because it's designed first and foremost to be going 10 tenths and having lots of air flowing through it. But the chances are we might be stuck in some traffic on Gumball. So if you put it into ignition stage 1, the engine will turn off, but the fan will still be drawing in air, and it's in sort of standby mode. So this is the mode in case we get stuck in traffic. Everything else we can kind of leave alone. We're just running it in 2 when we're rolling, and 0 is, well, as that sound would suggest, is off. Now, of course, this is the only screen in the Vulcan, and it isn't attached to any form of satellite navigation system. So Aston have also rigged up a clamp over here to insert an iPad where we can have our sat nav on, and that's connected to a battery pack just to make sure that it has power. Actually, that works pretty well, even though it's on the other side of the car. Yeah, I can see that fairly clearly, so that'll be handy. And then, of course, Vulcan always had super hardcore bucket seats in, whereas these now have the sports seats, which you would find in something like an Aston Martin V600. Carbon, still got lots of lateral support, but they're just a bit more comfortable and trimmed in this stunning sort of Bordeaux Alcantara with the Vulcan embroidery on the headrest. it is gorgeous. And then out of the back, not a great deal of visibility because it's predominantly cage, and then what isn't cage is wing. But that, it is colossal. This is developed in conjunction with Cosworth, which are also the guys which have been working very closely with Aston Martin on the development of the Valkyrie. So yes, these boys have learned a thing or two about tweaking naturally aspirated V12s, of which, when you hear this thing, you'll realise it is one of the finest in the world. Speaking of which, that's why we're here today, to have a shakedown of this car. So let's go for a drive. When it gets rolling, some gas. So, just came off that. That's first drive in a Vulcan. It's interesting, in a way, this circuit is really applicable to what we'll be doing because it's quite a tight, twisty and bumpy circuit. But for the car, optimally, absolutely not. I mean, it wants high speed, higher downforce circuits which aren't quite so tight. But the whole point of today is shaking this car down to experience what it's going to be like driving on the road, which of course is tight and bumpy and not convenient. It works well as a result. I mean, despite the fact that underneath it's pure race car, the hardest bit is clutch management and throttle management because it's so sensitive. You get that sort of, I guess, iconic race car shake out of the pits unless you manage to keep a balanced throttle or give it more gas. On the road, we're not going to be able to always give it more gas because there might be a truck parked in front of us or something. So, yeah, navigating this through streets, I think, will be the most entertaining thing / stressful thing. But to drive, sublime. If you watch the channel regularly, you know I'm a massive gearbox snob. This thing is, well, the gearbox is out of actual GT3 cars. So, once you've got some pace up, the way this thing goes up and down the gears, it's got such a phenomenal connection with like the relationship between the engine and the gearbox. It's thoroughbred. It's just pure theatre, and yeah, I can't wait. I'm not sure how quickly we'll end up going on the road, but it definitely likes to operate at a higher pace. So let's see if we can find some really nice flowing mountain passes with not too much traffic to try and exploit it on the rally. But just step back for a second to contextualize what's happening. We're running a Vulcan on Gumball 3000. Yeah, as far as shakedowns go, that is up there. The idea really is for me to become familiar with the car before just dropping me in Greece and going drive across Europe. I won't be doing the full drive in this car, I am sharing it, but nonetheless, as far as opportunities go, just things have been, like, my life has just taken a massive flip on its head as the result of this crazy world of cars. Massive thank you to the owner, massive thank you to Aston Martin, because they are providing support car and engineers along our journey. But importantly, we're taking you along for the ride, and I really want to know what you want to see from this. I mean, there's 24 of these in the world. Most of them spend their life on track and on very rare, special, very private occasions. And on this occasion, we get to drive one on the road on the Gumball 3000. So in terms of opportunities to create a very special moments in response to your feedback, which is what this channel is all about, please let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Ciao!